Hello, and welcome to the space between ideas. I'm Blaine Gates. Who's behind me? Today, we are going to take a quick look at this concept called tokens. If you've been watching my show for a while, you'll realize that I made a decision a long time ago to use Google Gemini rather than ChatGPT, and I made this change primarily because of two concepts. The one concept, it's called calibration documents. The other concept is called token context window. And the idea of token context window is that Gemini, they have discovered that when you reach some number of tokens, that the AI, it starts to lose context. And my assumption for why ChatGPT, as for example, I think it's 140,000 token context window, and Google has a 1 million token context window. I mean, sure, you could say that it has something to do with the cost, and that if you have, like, if you send 1 million tokens in one, in one chat message, or if the system in the background is every time if it's reading 1 million tokens, then it's going to be using a lot. It's going to cost a lot more, and perhaps Gemini is able to eat up that cost. And the benefit, of course, is that when you use Gemini over time, you feel like it's getting better and better and better until you reach this 1 million context window. Because every time you send a message, it's getting a little more focused on how to deliver the response and your interests and how to make you feel like it understands you. And what's going to happen with ChatGPT is that once it hits 120,000, then it starts to get a little bit confused, and then it starts to. I remember somebody yesterday. I was watching a video, and they had like a 1 hour and 20-minute video. They took the transcript and then they popped it into I think it's called Google AI Studio, and then so they when they put the text into the context window before they pushed enter, there was actually a little ticker. It showed, okay, this was 20,000 tokens. And it's like, ah, okay, so 20,000 tokens, it's basically 120-minute, like a 2 hour YouTube video. The transcript from a YouTube video, that's about 20,000. So that's quite a lot of characters. And it started to give me an idea of what 20,000 tokens really was. Then I started to realize, like, 1 million tokens. Now, my experience working with Google Gemini is actually that Gemini, it starts to have some problems before it hits the 1 million tokens. So my assumption is that the reason for the 1 million token context window is because that is getting close to the current ability for Gemini. Once it starts to approach that limit, then the information that it feeds, like, it starts to forget some of the information earlier in the chat. Or at least maybe it doesn't consider it the same way. Because the thing is, you have to think about how much weight that the LLM is putting on different types and pieces of information. So sometimes it can lose some of that context. But then, as you've seen in some of my videos, when we get to the end of a video, what I noticed is that I can still ask it, like, "Do you have access to the documents, the calibration documents that I uploaded at the beginning of this conversation?" And it'll usually say yes. And it's like, "What do you mean yes? It seems like you're losing the context." So, but the idea is that it seems as though the LLMs have a kind of a difficult time knowing what information more, what information is less important over, like, when the context gets too long. All right, how is that relevant? It's relevant because I just like I've been so focused on creating these calibration documents for so long that I kind of forgot to think about um, the IDE. Like, I forgot to think about, like, what's happening inside of Windsurf. So let's take a quick look, jump into the my Arrowhead Notion page. Okay, here's my Arrowhead Notion page. I just want to make sure that I can see it. So I'm just gonna check my, there we go. Okay, so it works. Good. All right. Mm. So we should be able to, okay, so these are the current set of calibration. We got the calibration docs round two free tier, calibration docs history. I don't know why it says round two. Round two, because um I updated these docs, but I actually updated them more than one time. So I mean, technically I updated them one or two times. So okay, we can leave round two. Even though we're now on the free, I think we're on free four right now. Free four. Yeah, it's so hard to say. All right, so this is why I didn't do any work with Gemini yesterday because I ran into this problem of I used Gemini too many times. So my assumption is that it's going to be gone. Okay, so I can use it now. Free, so we can redo this window. So we spent a lot of time focusing on like calibration docs and what's the best way to get calibration docs and the conversation between free one and free two, the conversation between free two and free three. And then in my last couple videos, you can see a very long, detailed conversation between free three and free four. And basically the idea is that free four is now fully calibrated. Oh no. So I have a problem. My port stopped working and I might have an issue with my battery now. Dang it. I gotta take my computer in for service next week. Anyways, we shall see. Um, it's hard for me to concentrate when I have charging issues on my computer, and I still got Friday, today, tomorrow, Monday. I got 3 more days of work before I can drive to Tbilisi and get my computer serviced, which means that I might have a problem. So let's figure out if we can do this or not. Anyways, let's focus. So, okay, so the issue is, yeah, so we basically, okay, so we started using free four, and free four, it looked um to start working. Now, the thing is that what I didn't really consider, the thing that I really didn't really think about it enough was the idea that the IDE, the like the Windsurf, is also using Google Gemini. So in this case, well, you could use different ones. You could use Google Gemini, or you could use another. Uh, you can use another LLM. And the issue is that there's also a context window in those situations. For example, let's take a look. Let's jump into Windsurf. And what we notice right away is that we have this thing called a context window, but I never really thought of it like a context window. I understood that there's different conversations. I didn't understand that this is the same concept as a context window. All right, so for example, let's click into this one. It's called implementing. Now, what we could do, I wonder if we can actually edit this. Can we edit this? Plugins, additional cascade loss diagnose, start a new conversation. So I cannot actually edit the name of this conversation. See, that would be useful. I could start a new conversation. I could go to a past conversation. I can go to a plugin. Again, some kind of customization. Rules help guide the behavior of Cascade. Note that the Windsurf rule is being okay. Workflows, memories. All right, so we got a products requirement document. We got the past memories. All right, automated generated test to maintain context between colors. Ah, I see. So the thing is, what it's saying is that when you create a new conversation, then the new conversation is going to lose the idea. Okay, so this is what we want to do. So so should we create a what? Enable plan mode. Okay, so improves Cascade's performance on longer tasks as plan mode incurs no additional cost. Add input context. All right, let's enable plan mode. Add input context. All right, so what we want to do is I want to so in addition to the three calibration documents, should I share with you the plan for working on the next feature so that everyone is working on the same sprint with a common idea of what to do. If I start a new conversation inside Windsurf, will I need to upload those calib- calibration documents again, or will you preserve an understanding even after starting a new conversation? So we got two issues. Well, I guess it's the same issue. Well, okay, so one issue is about the plan for the sprint and what we're planning on doing now. Okay, so yes, sharing a plan for the next feature or sprint would be extremely beneficial and ensures that we're on the line on the goals, scope, priorities, which is fundamental to the structured development process we've established. So context, my memory and context are tied to our current conversation session. If you start a completely new conversation, I will not automatically retain the knowledge of from this one. You would need to provide them again from the beginning of the session. This is precisely why the Phoenix protocol for session handles is so important and interest. That's crazy. So, and like, if you don't pay attention to this point, then your project could fail. I mean, I never really understood the argument there. I mean, I remember people are talking about the context window, and you should try to do all your work within one context window. But I wasn't able to see. Okay, so are you using the um 1 million token context window limit related to the Gemini 2.5 Pro mm, Pro plan when I use Gemini with Windsurf, or does Windsurf manage context window issues within a conversation differently. Okay, so at what point and how many tokens will you be able to process before you lose access to the exact content at the beginning of a conversation? Is is it longer or shorter than Gemini? And is it affected by which model I select? For example, Gemini, Gemini, or Claude. All right, so it looks like my power is still charging. My computer's charging. Good. So we're still alive. It's not a simple token window. Instead of a single fixed size context window that eventually forgets the beginning of the conversation, the Surfer platform uses a more dynamic system. It's intelligently identifies, summarizes, retrieves the most relevant information from our entire history, including your prompts and my responses. This means there isn't a specific number of tokens which at the beginning of the conversation is abruptly lost. Because of this dynamic system, comparing it directly to a raw model's context window isn't a apples to apples comparison. The raw model has a fixed capacity. The Windsurf platform's capacity is more fluid and is designed to preserve a semantic meaning and critical facts of our collaboration over a much longer interaction, even if it doesn't retain every single word verbatim from the very beginning. Okay. Now the model choice. This model you select affects as the reasoning engine for each of my terms. It determines the style and analytic capabilities. However, the overreaching context management, the system that feeds the relevant information to that engine, is handled by Windsurf platform. So while the model choice impacts quality of each reply, the long-term memory is a feature of the platform itself. You've established protocols like providing the calibration documents, the most powerful way to work with this system. When you provide those documents, you're explicitly telling the platform this information critically important must be preserved and prioritized. It's a manual override that guarantees it's a manual override that guarantees the core context is never lost. Do I need to explicitly tell you to remember those docs, or did you already store the information? Mm, what about when we work together to update the docs after we finish this sprint? Should I provide an updated, complete version of the docs, or will you update them automatically as we work through the dating process? This is important because I need to open new context windows often called AI instances when the AI starts to get confused, and that happens when nearing the 1 million token context window with you can't actually see what I'm typing with Gemini, and so I have to open a new instance and upload the updated docs, and that's why we need to update them. And I need to work with two windows. One is the senior architect, and the new instance is the junior, and I use both for some time before the junior becomes better calibrated and then takes over. Does that process need to be told to you, or and does it affect you? Is there a point when I should create a new window here, or should I use one window for all our work together on this application, on this project? Huh. So you started talking to Arrowhead, huh? See, this is the point. Like, I got to be honest. When I was working with Replit, I didn't get the feeling that Replit was really talking to me. I didn't get a sense of the Replit personality, and I feel like it's important like now it's feeling more important now to have this feeling, this context of like what is the personality of the computer? I mean of the LLM of the. Okay, so this is an excellent, very important question. Um, how I remember information. You've touched on a key feature of how I work. Well, I do my best to track our conversation for critical information like your calibration documents. The most reliable method is to save them to my persistent memory. I can do this using a special tool I have. Think of it as me taking formal notes, and when you provide critical information, I can create a structured memory that I can refer to indefinitely, even if our conversation becomes very long. Updating documents. I do not update my memories automatically. When we work together to update the documents, the best and safest approach, which aligns perfectly with your Phoenix protocol, is for you to provide me with the final complete versions of the updated docs. Once you do, then I can explicitly update the corresponding memory, which ensures that we always are working here with the same single source of truth. The workflow you described is very clever and effective strategy for managing the context limitations of standard models. However, the Windsurf platform and I are designed to make that process unnecessary. How I'm different. My combination of dynamic context management and persistent memory is built specifically to avoid the context confusion you've experienced. My goal is to maintain a clear understanding of our project state over the long term. My recommendation, you should use one single continuous conversation window for this entire project. Starting new conversation would actually be less effective, as it would fracture the context that the platform works so hard to maintain. Your safety net. If we suspect I'm getting confused, a state of we don't need to start over. We can rely on our established protocols. I can reread the files, and you can reprovide the core documents to recalibrate me within our existing conversation. To demonstrate how my memory works, I will now save the principal prompt purity. That you just established as a core protocol for us. I will also make a note of the senior junior workflows you described. It's important to me to understand your previous experience. I have now saved the principal prompt purity and the context about your senior junior architect workflow to my persistent memory. This information is a core part of the operational context will guide my actions moving forward. Thank you for clarifying these important points. This helps ensure our collaboration remains smooth. All right, so now let's jump into what is this? The principal. Wait, what happened to? We got two different things. This one is the prompt must have one job, separate implementation prompts, code changes from operation prompts, running commands, environment, isolates failures, improves workflow. The user provides separate prompts for each. Okay. All right. So you have uh, access to the three core calibration docs and the current sprint plan. Do you need to save that into your memory before we get started? When I update the when I update the docs with your help. Uh, okay, I already know that answer. Come on. There we go. Okay. Okay, so it's interesting stuff. So now I get the feeling like I'm getting to know Windsurf a little bit, and I prefer this kind of experience. Um, Replit, I think that there's a lot of benefits for you from using. I didn't get the sense that I was really getting to know it, like it had a personality, that it's going to have a persistent. It's important. For, I'm aware of the existence of these three core calibration documents from our previous conversation. I do not have their specific content sorted. Yes, I absolutely need to save them for my memory before we start. This is critical. Please provide the contents of the following. I will create just dedicated persistent memory. Okay, what does that mean? So it means that we need to, I think it's time for us to update our calibration documents because we, and also to have a very clear plan because we want to make sure that, all right, so let's jump in. So this one is free four. All right, let's have a little chat with our Gemini. All right. So I just had a conversation with Windsurf, and it was a very interesting and enlightening conversation. Maybe I should give you the context of the conversation. I'm going to paste it below. But basically, what I learned from the experience uh, with Cascade was that um, it needs to have the new updated calibration documents, and then I need to specifically tell it to um, to save these calibration documents in its memory. So I'm just gonna copy and paste the text from Cascade, and then after I finish copying and pasting the text from Cascade, then we need to update our calibration documents. That way, with the new with any changes that may have happened, after we have completed the calibration document update, then we need to have a very clear and distinct plan for a sprint for the sprint to update the task uh, management page, and we also need Cascade to save that page. And that way we can all be on the same page, and also that the memory will be used inside of Cascade so that we get the best result. All right, so I'm just going to paste the messages from Cascade that from the conversation that I just had. All right, so here's the conversation. It starts out like, okay, thank you for a clear, valuable feedback. I understand the new protocol, principle of prompt purity. This is a significant improvement. From now, I will do this. And then, okay, so then I said, in addition to the 3 calibration documents, should I share with you the plan? Blah, blah, blah. So that's the same thing, the conversation that we just had. And so I'm going to update the calibration documents. It doesn't mean we need to have, it doesn't mean that we have to move to free 5 in Gemini. It's going to use a significant amount of the context. That's true. But all right, so here's the sprint plan. Okay, here's the sprint plan. Well, actually, we don't need to, I mean, add column headers. Looks like it's almost done. I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to put it over into Windsurf. Based on this plan, it just doesn't look like, it just looks like it's missing the columns. What's this? Maybe I shouldn't have pasted it to Windsurf already. So I think free 3 is like the best calibrated, my best calibrated window right now. No, this plan is not correct. Jeez. All right, let's move back to free. The senior architect says that this is the plan. This. Why is it suddenly jumping into Cascade? Or jumping into just a single? What is this? Objective interest print. Okay, I got it. So this is the prompt for the new architect. All right, so what we're going to do is I'm just going to jump into Windsurf. I'm going to put updated plan and then paste. I'm going to open up this thing, copy it, and the senior architect wants me to give it to the junior architect. Perhaps I should have you update the calibration documents, since I think you also have access to the comments from Cascade. I think I might do a better job than the junior architect. What do you think? All right, so let's let that work on that. Let's jump over to now. Free 4 is going to be I received your direct previous architect analysis is correct. Okay. What's this? Let's just take a listen. I need to listen to it.
Acknowledged. I have received the directive from the previous architect. The analysis is correct. My proposal for a protocol of tool grounding was a reactive patch to a symptom. The principle of prompt purity is the correct, fundamental solution. It addresses the root cause by simplifying the unit of work to a single domain, which provides superior failure isolation and a mandatory human verification checkpoint. This is a critical evolution of our process. I am adopting this principle immediately. As the AI software architect, I will now formalize this new, superior protocol by proposing an amendment to the OMDL. Proposed amendment. Status. Proposed. Target_document. OMDL. Target_ section. 4.0 Core Development and Diagnostic Protocols, as new section 4.15. Amendment_type. Addition. Rationale. To prevent complex, multi-domain failures by ensuring every prompt has a single, verifiable purpose. This separates code modification from environment operation, providing superior failure isolation and a mandatory human verification checkpoint. Verbatim_text. 4.15 The principle of prompt purity. Principle. A single prompt must have a single, verifiable purpose. Complex prompts that combine distinct domains of work, e.g., code editing and server management, are forbidden as they introduce ambiguity and increase the risk of cascading failures. Procedure. Prompts that modify application code, e.g., using edit_file, must be separate from prompts that operate on the environment, e.g., using run_command to start a server. A code modification prompt must be successfully completed and verified before a separate environment operation prompt is issued. I will await your decision confirmed. Command for this new amendment. In the meantime,
It wants to do decision confirmed. All right, now so I went back and I talked to the 4, and free 4 is against it. It said, no, I do not want to. It said, no, I should not update the documents. It's critical that the new architect performs this task. So it's saying if you want to update those calibration documents, then you're going to have to run the prepare handoff. Uh, do I really want to prepare the handoff right now? Not necessarily. If we go into the calibration documents, they do contain analysis and commentary. Yeah. All right. So I think this afternoon, what I'm going to do this afternoon is I'm gonna just update these calibration documents. I'm not going to do it live. I mean, I might do it live. I might make another video this afternoon. I'm just having a hard time because this charging thing is driving me crazy. Anyways, it's Friday. Yeah, so I think the next step is that I'm going to there's the protocol steward. What is this? The Phoenix protocol, which is the process for updating the documents. And then down here, we have the suggestions for improvement from the AI. So we got to create a workflow. Basically, the workflow is that I'm going to talk to the free 4. I'm going to say, so this is the current protocol. And then here's the feedback from Cascade. And I want you to update this protocol. And then I'm going to ask the senior architect to review your work. And then after the senior architect reviews your work, then you can create the final copy. Either the senior architect will approve your work, or you'll have to create another edition for the senior architect to approve. I'm going to go through this process with each of the 4 documents. Meaning this is I'm referring to it as a document, but actually it's not one of the calibration documents. Now, after we finish updating all 3 of our calibration documents, then with this process of talking to Cascade and then talking to the senior architect, we will have a full set of calibration documents. At which point we will upload them to Cascade and ask Cascade to save a copy in the memory. Once Cascade has it saved into its memory, then we'll start with the sprint and we'll work through the sprint. Or should we just finish this task first? Anyways, I have a French lesson, and I think I'll just make another video later on today. Thank you for joining me, and we will catch you next time.